저희는 그 수리의 장인을 찾아서 워크숍을 엽니다.
참 좋은 생각, 좋은 아이디어였어요. 처음에 유 대표 혜민이가 왔더라고. 저 강의하고 있는데 여기 안쪽에 붙이면은 살대의 연결 부위 전체적으로 살대를 그래? 그렇지만 이 부품이 없어요. 일일이 우리가 구멍도 이게 다 뚫어가지고 모양 맞춰가지고.
Accustomed to fixing things that are broken because that is what everybody did back then, this skilled elderly repair person experiences something else to be proud of.
파에 들어가지고 여기 홈이 있어요. 파였어요. 원래 군대에 있을 때 그 월남전에 그 정찰기 있죠. 정찰기 정비했어요. 그냥 어린애 장난이지 내한테는. 어린애 장난.
무슨 껌이에요?
껌이 이건
50개 왔어요.
너무 없어. 오늘
한 300개 더 들어오는데 저희 줄 데가 없어. 지금 우산 장짜고 있어. 안에.
그러면 잘 됐네. 잘 됐네. 내가 전화해가지고.
아니 언제 돈 받은 적도 없는데.
요거
이거
맞는 거 없나? 여기 있을 건데. 보내놓은 거 좀 가져와 봐. 잘해.
근데 이 안에 있는 거 다 그건데. 보내는 거.
이제 선생님 정도로 잘한다고 생각하세요?
그건 말도 안 되는 소리.
말도 안 되는.
근데 왜냐면 진짜 수리가 잘 된 거는 이거 수리한 건가? 라는 생각이 들어야 되거든요. 어디 수리한 거지? 근데 제가 수리한 데는 여기 수리한 티가 나요.
맞아.
근데 선생님이 한 데는 티가 안 나요. 그게 제일 전문가 아마추어에서
마무리가 아주 깔끔해. 나 그거 하나는 내가 칭찬하지. 오케이. 됐네.
이거 오케이?
요거면 돼.
예.
오케이, 요걸로 하면 돼. 참, 이 아까운 거 많아요. 아직 쓸 수 있는데도 들고 가가지고, 응? 그냥 버리다시피 버리는 경우가 많더라고. 우리는 무조건 그 당시 또 기회서, 모든 게 다 기회서니까 하나에서 열까지 다 고치고, 고치도 안 되면 안 되는 대로 그대로 쏘았잖아, 우리는. 그래, 쏘았다고. 쏘았던 세대니까. 많이 변했지. 그럼 우리가 늙은 거지, 안 그래? 세월이 그만 거치는. 그 이거. 네, 다 된 거예요. 이제 바느질만. 혜민이 어디 갔나? 여기 바느질, 여기 바느질.
To a generation that has not tried fixing and mending, this will be a new experience.
제가 지금 쓰고 있는 우산 선생님 고쳐주신 우산인데 이렇게 고쳐서 쓸 수 있다고? 이렇게 그걸 처음 본 거잖아요, 사실. 이게 고쳐서 그냥 한 우산을 계속 내가 정든 우산을 계속 오래 쓰는 게 훨씬 더 좋겠구나 이런 마음 생겼어요. 이건 짠! 보니까 여기 이렇게 3개 갈아주셨네요. 이렇게 색깔이 틀리죠?
왜 고치세요? 굳이 사지 않고 고쳐야 하는 이유?
그런 고민은 제가 이 우산수리 시작할 때 정말 많이 했어요. 이 5,000원짜리를 고치는 게 무슨 의미가 있지? 그게 정말 가치가 있을까? 새로 사면 되는데? 라는 생각을 했는데 저는 이 수리 운동을 시작한 게 환경운동 때문이거든요. 저와 비슷한 또래 친구들이 기후우울에 엄청 시달리거든요. 근데 왜냐면 우울하잖아요. 지금 어제는 전남에서 4,400번 번개가 치고 폭우가 쏟아지고 있는데 내 삶에서 쓰레기 조금 줄이는 게 무슨 소용이 있나 라는 마음이 들 때 저는 그 우울감 대신에 뭔가 내 손으로 직접 고쳐보는 삶? 그리고 다시 모여서 뭔가 더 나은 미래를 상상해보는 삶을 선택하면 좋을 것 같아요.
모르겠어. 내 이야기가 상충되는가 모르겠지만은 이런 거 우산 같은 거 수리하는 것보다 뭐고 구입하는 게 싸지 않아요? 안 그래? 응? 그런데 또 사람 마음 또 그게 아닌데 이런 애착을 갖더라고. 응? 자기가 갖던 우산에 수리 금액이 뭐 어떻든 간에 또 그저 개 중에는 귀한 우산들이 많아요. 애안이 있는 거.
좋대요? 저는 제 조카의 미래와 제 미래를 위해서 제가 방송 통해서 얻은 목소리를 환경을 위해서 쓰이기로 결심했습니다. 앞으로 많이 봐주세요.
저는 환경을 위해 새로운 옷을 사지 않기로 결심했습니다.
저는 쓰레기를 줄이기 위해 물건을 직접 고치기로 결심했습니다.
모든 생활에서 업사이클링적인 삶을 살고 싶습니다. 아니, 결심. 업사이클적인 생활을 결심했습니다.
좋습니다. 네.
Gangwon, where cutting-edge technology and pristine nature coexists. Gangwon is faster and more connected. The global city for industries of the future. Gearing up for new challenges and innovations toward the global stage beyond South Korea. Gangwon State.
요즘 한국에선 어떻게 노는지 알려줄까?
한국에선 아이돌이 되어볼 수도 인생 번호를 찾을 수도 있지.
제일 핫한 포토 스팟은 여기.
한국은 분명 너에게 새로운 영감을 줄 거야.
이런 한국 와보지 않고는 모를걸? 진짜 한국에선 어떻게 먹는지 알려줄까?
K-바비큐? 신김치랑 먹어야지.
치킨? 치맥 페스티벌은 처음이지?
김치? 종류만큼 먹는 법도 가지각색.
김밥? 시장에선, 산에선, 바다에선 이렇게.
국밥?
취향 따라, 입맛 따라. 이런 한국 와보지 않고는 모를걸?
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stooky plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put, like the stooky that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else. Step 4. Survival kit. Every worker needs a survival kit. Survival kit level 1. This position gets the most exposure. Grab one when you need a sugar boost. Always keep a few treats you can offer your co-workers. Survival kit level 2. These are for hunger pangs before and after a meal. You'll need them when you take a coffee break with your office buddies. Survival kit level 3. Trash talking your boss with your soulmate. Did you survive in the workplace? Office romance? Be careful. Even the photocopier knows all the gossip.
The Constitutional Court has asked President Yoon Suk-yeol to hand in cabinet records related to the December 3rd martial law declaration over his impeachment trial. Whether he will reply remains unclear. The prosecution agrees to transfer its investigations into the president to the State Anti-Corruption Investigation Office amid criticism of overcomplicated, overlapping investigations by several probe agencies. The nation's finance and diplomatic chiefs hold a rare press conference with foreign correspondents based in Seoul amid political uncertainty. Deputy Prime Minister Choi Sang-mok says the country's economy is sound and resilient. It's December 18th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We begin with the latest at the Constitutional Court. It has requested the president to submit key evidence in relation to the impeachment trial within the next few days. The court also has shared intentions not to broadcast the hearings. Kim Jong-sil explains.
The Constitutional Court has ordered President Yoon to submit key evidence by December 24th. Lee Jin, the court's press officer, elaborated on the specifics of the order.
We've demanded the president to submit his plan for presenting evidence, a list of evidence, martial law proclamation number 1, and the records from the cabinet meeting related to this case by December 24th.
The court also addressed its decision to not allow live broadcasting of the hearings, emphasizing the need to maintain order and prevent disruptions.
I think we need to look at this from two perspectives. First, there were reports that President Yoon requested a live broadcast, but the court made it clear that exceptions are not allowed. Second, this case could potentially escalate public pressure, and the court seems focused on minimizing the risk of what's often called a trial by public opinion.
Some legal experts believe that live broadcasting could be misused for political messaging.
There is a danger that Yoon would try to use that live broadcast as a platform once again to appeal and incite his diehard supporters. So I think it's a very sensible decision that they declined Yoon's request.
Delays in delivering the court's documents and notices to the presidential office have also raised concerns. Security staff reportedly refused to accept the documents, prompting speculation about potential stalling tactics.
The way he's refusing to cooperate with the investigation in and of itself can constitute grounds for impeachment. And in fact, that's what the Constitutional Court said with regard to the impeachment of Park Geun-hye. They said that Park Geun-hye's refusal to cooperate with the investigation team showed her unwillingness to uphold the constitutional order.
The Constitutional Court will hold its first deliberation on December 19th, marking a significant step in the trial against Yoon. While still in the early stages of review, the court is expected to discuss key issues, underscoring the gravity of the case. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
The prosecution has decided to transfer the case against President Yoon to the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials to streamline the investigation. Now the CIO is looking into issuing a second summons as the president did not appear on Wednesday morning as requested. Lee Eun-hee brings the latest.
The investigation into President Yoon's declaration of martial law on December 3rd will now be solely handled by the Corruption Investigation Office for High-Ranking Officials, or the CIO. The CIO had requested the case be transferred, and after consultations on Wednesday, the prosecution service announced its decision to send the insurrection case against President Yoon Suk-yeol and former Interior Minister Lee Sang-min to the CIO. The move is seen as a way to prevent overlapping investigations, as Yoon had been summoned by both agencies. Attention is on whether the investigation will now proceed in an orderly manner. Amid the active investigations by different agencies, opinions were divided on how the process was unfolding. Some believed the agencies were using the case to assert their influence, while others saw it as healthy competition that led to positive outcomes, such as pushing for President Yoon's appearance and attempting to conduct searches at the presidential office. On Tuesday, President Yoon's legal team addressed the need for coordination among various investigative agencies regarding his attendance. The case transfer has led to speculation that it could help avoid future claims from Yoon and his team to reject or delay any requests. This comes after President Yoon did not show up for questioning on Wednesday morning as requested by the joint investigation team that includes the CIO. While the prosecution's request for the president to appear on the 21st is effectively on hold, the CIO is expected to re-notify President Yoon of a second summons. Since the CIO lacks the authority to directly indict the president, the case is expected to be referred back to the prosecution after the investigation is completed. Both the prosecution and CIO have said they will continue to cooperate. Meanwhile, the special police team failed in its attempt to raid the presidential office for the second time. This was confirmed on Wednesday evening as a security team that had refused to cooperate during Tuesday's attempt and promised to decide on Wednesday cited reasons such as military confidentiality. 이은희, Arirang News.
Over at the Parliament, the heads of the ruling and opposition parties sat down today to discuss the post-impeachment state affairs. This comes amid the rival parties locking horns over the issue of filling constitutional court vacancies ahead of the president's impeachment trial. Our National Assembly correspondent Lee Si-hoo reports.
A first meeting between the leaders of the two major rival parties since the opposition-led push to impeach President Yoon passed through the National Assembly. The acting chairman and floor leader of the ruling People Power Party, Kwon Sung-dong, and the chairman of the main opposition Democratic Party, Lee Jae-myung, met on Wednesday afternoon to discuss ways to stabilize state affairs and the political situation at the parliament. There was consensus between the two leaders to lessen political offensives against each other's camps to restore stability at the National Assembly.
We can recover from the chaotic political situation if we, the legislature, can refrain from over-competing and instead calmly put our heads together for the sake of the people's livelihoods and security.
Acknowledging each other, a bit of give and take, and finding the right compromises to reach mutual agreements is the proper role of politics. But sadly, the situation we have here now is a war instead of politics.
But they also made respective suggestions, with Lee once again urging the PPP leader to accept his offer of a joint talk between the rival parties and the government.
I think Chairman Kwon has a pessimistic view on the joint consultative body to stabilize state affairs that I've suggested. We think the Democratic Party can be flexible in many aspects as necessary, but I think we need to have a practical consultation.
And Kwon suggesting that the DP withdraw some of the opposition-pushed impeachment motions against government officials currently pending at the Constitutional Court of Korea.
I ask that the National Assembly withdraw the impeachment motions that were overissued and done as strong political offensives to lessen the burden on the Constitutional Court and take the pressure off the state affairs that have been paralyzed by the impeachment motions.
The rival party spokespeople told reporters following a closed-door talk between the two that they also talked about the economy, with PPP suggesting legislation to help the AI and semiconductor industries, and DP suggesting a supplementary budget and amendments to protect small-scale stock shareholders. This, as the opposition members of the National Assembly Committee working on nominating 3 constitutional judges to fill the empty seats at the court on Wednesday morning chose to replace its former committee chair, the PPP lawmaker Chung Jum-sik, with the DP lawmaker Park Ji-won to lead them throughout the upcoming process, while the PPP refused to participate in the meeting in protest. The PPP argues that it is wrong for the National Assembly to nominate the 3 constitutional judges who will review the Assembly-approved motion to impeach President Yoon, and that acting President Han Duck-soo does not hold the right to appointment, while the Assembly Speaker and the opposition refute this, saying that it is constitutional for the National Assembly and the acting President to go through with the process that will hopefully stabilize state affairs and reassure the South Korean people. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
To delve deeper into this critical trial and major legal points, let's turn to our political correspondent, Shin Ha-young. Ha-young, the presidential office has apparently been refusing to receive requests for documents sent by the Constitutional Court. How could this affect the overall trial process?
Well, you're right, Jung-min. In fact, the Constitutional Court's impeachment trial is off to a rocky start. And this comes because the court said that it sent President Yoon Suk-yeol the documents related to his impeachment trial, including the National Assembly's impeachment resolution on Monday. However, there has been no confirmation of receipt from the presidential office. The delayed response is likely to push back the trial, especially since one of the documents requires a written response from the president within 7 days of its receipt. And this means that the first preparatory hearing scheduled for next Friday may not proceed as planned. But still, the court can't just wait around, so it's currently reviewing how to handle such a situation if such delays continue.
President Yoon is likely to attend a trial to defend himself against the allegation in court. What could be behind his intention behind?
You're right. President Yoon's lawyer Seok Dong-young said that Yoon is expected to present his position in court when a public hearing takes place. And as a former prosecutor, and given Yoon's firm belief that his martial law declaration was a legitimate action, these factors increase the likelihood of him attending the trial. And former President Roh Moo-hyun and Park Geun-hye didn't attend any of their Constitutional Court hearings. Instead, they only expressed their positions through their lawyers. And Yoon's legal team also argues that the treason charges don't apply, as there was no intention to disrupt the Constitution or foment any rebellion. And this aligns with Yoon's address last Thursday, where he explained that martial law was necessary to push against the opposition party's stonewalling of legislation, which he felt was crippling the government. Take a listen.
국헌을 망가뜨리려는 것이 아니라 헌정 질서와 국헌을 지키고 회복하기 위한 것입니다. 질서 유지를 위해 소수의 병력을 잠시 투입한 것이 폭동이란 말입니까?
Meanwhile, the Assembly has formed a team led by Legislation and Judiciary Committee Chair Representative Chung Chung-lee that will act as the prosecution. And it was formed just 2 days after the motion was passed in Parliament. And during the team's first meeting, Chung emphasized that he aimed to complete the trial swiftly. And the ruling People Power Party refused to join, so the team consists of 11 lawmakers from 3 opposition parties.
And sticking with the parliament, as we saw in our issues report, the rival parties are clashing over the prospects of filling Constitutional Court vacancies. What are their calculations behind this dispute?
Well, the dispute over acting President Han Duck-suk's power is more about a political strategy than being about his role. And when we consider the current Constitutional Court, just 1 judge is needed to reject the impeachment under the current 6-member court. But if there's 3 new judges are appointed in time to review and rule, it will take 4 judges to dismiss the impeachment. And it could also be interpreted that both sides are trying to influence the timing of the court's impeachment decision to gain an advantage in any early presidential election. And a president's removal requires at least 6 Constitutional Court judges to agree, but deciding such a major issue with only 6 judges could raise legitimacy concerns, making it likely that the decision will be delayed. And the PPP wants to keep a 6-judge panel to buy more time before the early election. And meanwhile, the DP wants to push for an early election, since this must be held within 60 days if the court upholds the impeachment. And the party wants to speed up the impeachment process, ideally with the prescribed 9-judge panel, so the election can take place sooner, ultimately aiming to hold it before a definitive ruling on DP Chairman Lee Jae-myung's legal issues.
Acting President Han Duck-soo is planning to call a special cabinet meeting tomorrow. What are the expectations there?
You're absolutely right. So acting President Han will hold a special cabinet meeting on Thursday, which is tomorrow at 10 p.m. And Han is expected to exercise the right of reconsideration or a veto on 6 bills, including the National Assembly Act and the Grain Management Act, which were passed by the Assembly last month. And the DP has warned Han against vetoing the contentious bills, stating that they may push for impeachment if he exercises his veto power. And Han's decision could further strain relations with the opposition, which has been advocating for these bills.
All right, thank you, Hayoung, for the wrap-up.
Thank you.
Words of reassurance were shared by Korea's top economic and diplomatic officials at a rare press conference with members of the foreign media today, amid uncertainty over the potential ripple effects of the country's political predicament. Kim Bo-kyung covers their remarks and more.
South Korea's constitutional system and emergency response mechanisms are functioning well, despite heightened uncertainties stemming from recent domestic and international factors. This, according to Deputy Prime Minister Choi Sang-mok, who also serves as Minister of Economy and Finance. The Finance and Foreign Ministries jointly held a press conference with foreign correspondents in Seoul on Wednesday to address concerns the international community might have over South Korea's economic and diplomatic situation. The government responded promptly to the volatile financial and foreign exchange situation following the martial law decree imposition and Yoon's impeachment, Choi said, stabilizing the markets. Political uncertainty, too, is resolving, according to Choi, with the budget and key tax bills being passed in the National Assembly on December 10th, through close cooperation between the government and both the ruling and opposition parties. While stressing how three major global credit rating agencies assessed that Seoul's political situation would only have a limited impact on its credit rating, Choi vowed to stay vigilant.
We will remain vigilant and bring together all available public and private sector resources to manage the economy as stably as possible, given the possibility of market fluctuations and the potential dampening of economic sentiment.
The Finance Ministry's top priority will be to maintain external trust and confidence in the South Korean economy. For this, Choi pledged to operate a 24-hour monitoring system for the financial and foreign exchange markets and enhance incentives for foreign investment. The ministry will develop plans to strengthen fundamental industrial competitiveness, and for the people's livelihoods, it plans to front-load budget spending into the first half of next year to bolster the economy. The economic policy direction for 2025 will also soon be announced. Meanwhile, though there could be some questions over the sustainability of Seoul's foreign policy, Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol emphasized he would fully maintain the current policy under the acting presidency.
We will maintain a steadfast ROK-US alliance and friendly cooperation with Japan and actively work to ensure the momentum for trilateral cooperation among Korea, the US, and Japan is sustained.
While adding South Korea will brace for a resumption of a US-North Korea dialogue under the Donald Trump administration, the ministry added it will consult closely with China to further improve bilateral ties. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
In other news, from AI-powered games to smart home devices, Korea is turning to technology to transform elderly care and to prevent social isolation within its aging population. Our Moon Hae-ryun shows us how.
In one of South Korea's northernmost townships, a modest building is pioneering cutting-edge tech care services. Gwaninmyeon, Gyeonggi-do's first AI senior care town, brings AI care, medical visits and digital education to a place where seniors over 65 years old make up nearly half the population.
This phrase's literal translation is the AI love room, which gives a hint as to what might be waiting for us behind these doors. So let's go and take a look.
Twice a week, participants aged 77 to 89 gather here for AI-powered games and activities designed to prevent dementia and boost social interaction, bringing energy and connection to those living alone.
Games like popping balloons on the table are great for old people like us who have no strength in our fingers. Seeing people face to face and talking to them is also a great source of healing for me because old people are usually just at home.
Augmented reality provides fun exercise routines to keep the participants active, while this digital kiosk helps seniors navigate those found in stores, banks, and hospitals.
It's important for seniors to have an open mind to embrace new technology in this digital age. I also hope new devices are developed quickly so that they're easy for seniors to use.
But for those unable to visit the welfare center, a mobile app offers basic health checks, hospital bookings, and a call service. And in the capital city of Seoul, smart care services for the elderly are available in the comfort of their own homes, such as this plug. It sends real-time data to a control center which is manned throughout the night, alerting staff to check in if appliances go unused for extended periods. An AI call service also checks in with senior citizens around the city.
오늘은 좀 어떠세요?
너무 피곤해요.
Games, apps, and call services may not seem like much, but they are vital to taking care of the country's aging population.
With more single-person households and an aging population, the risk of social isolation is growing, but community staff and care workers lack the resources to check on everyone.
As South Korea's aging population continues to grow, programs like these bridging the gap between technology and human connection ensure no one is left behind. 문혜련, Arirang News.
We are counting down exactly 1 week to Christmas Day. For those of you in Seoul, we shed light on a few places that are seeking to share the most of the holiday season here in the capital city. Our An Sung-jin was out and about.
The year-end festivities have returned. It's the season where friends and families gather together to celebrate and get the feel of Christmas. Ornaments glisten and stars shine on Christmas trees, creating the perfect photo spot.
Department stores have geared up for Christmas this year to attract visitors, and this Christmas market offers various activities, including a carousel ride.
From glue vine to a giant Christmas tree, this Christmas market has opened in the center of Seoul. With more than 40 Christmas-themed shops, it lures in visitors with its vivid colors.
It's been so busy that I didn't even know it was Christmas, but I'm glad I get to spend time with my kid out here like this.
I love to be able to find like typical desserts and stuff from Europe, let's say, and it's amazing because you have the spirit of Christmas here, even in Korea.
In another part of the city, this digital media facade shows Christmas scenes through illustrations and lights beaming from the screen.
The decorations here are so fancy. It's nice to be here.
Though we're now retired designers, we've worked in this area for a long time, so it's nice to see all the decorations out here.
Retailers are rushing to showcase their annual year-end decorations, not only for marketing their brand image, but also to help boost declining in-person purchases. Stores this year have focused on not only displays, but more interactive spaces to keep customers for a longer time. A professor says these eye-grabbing attractions could boost domestic consumption.
People tend to open their wallet when they're a bit more excited, and these decorations act as a catalyst for that. Not only for those actually passing by with social media, it induces consumption, leading to a ripple effect of drawing in more people.
These Christmas decorations not only bring a festive atmosphere, but also a chance to boost the local economy. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Due to the cold wind, the feels-like temperature plummeted to nearly minus 10 degrees Celsius this morning in Seoul. Many areas recorded their lowest temperatures this winter so far today. With frigid conditions everywhere, snow fell in some west coast areas and Jeju Island. With a heavy snow advisory in place, the west coast areas of the Jeolla-do provinces and Jeju Island will have more snow until tonight. In addition, heavy snow is forecast in the eastern parts of Gangwon province and northern parts of Gyeongsang-buk-do province. Up to 10 centimeters of snow will accumulate in these areas by early tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, most areas will have a freezing morning. Chuncheon and Daegu, minus 5 degrees. Gwangju and Gyeongju, minus 3. Highs will move up to 5 degrees in Seoul, Chuncheon and Jeju, 9 degrees. More snow is forecast for the central parts of the country and the Jeolla-do provinces this weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.
How to survive in Korea. Cafes. Step 1. Find a seat. Before ordering, find a seat. Laptop, ID, smartphone, jacket, whatever that can mark your territory. But no bites. It's a little too big. Step 2. Pick up. We do not ask or call your name. We call out, B69원 고객님. The buzzer will vibrate when your order is ready at the counter. Wait, got your straw? Keep the top of the wrapper on. Doing this is more hygienic. Step 3. Cafe etiquette. If you need to use your laptop, find a seat next to a socket. No extra charge for using electricity. But if you're staying over 3 hours, how about ordering another drink or dessert? Step 4. Last bite standing. There's a mysterious custom in Korea. The last bite standing. When there's about 1 bite left of that cake, nobody will go for it. You might be tempted, but don't be hasty. Right before you get up, take the last piece, saying that you simply can't waste food, or just leave it. It will save a few calories. Did you survive at the cafe? Did someone behind the counter catch your eye? Go for the same drink every single day.
오늘도 아이스몰차 라떼 드실 거죠?
You might make an impression.
Hi, Chef Ryan here. Today we're going to make sweet potato bites and kimchi canapes.
한국에선 어떻게 노는지 알려줄까?
한국에선 아이돌이 되어볼 수도 인생 번호를 찾을 수도 있지. 제일 핫한 포토 스팟은 여기. 한국은 분명 너에게 새로운 영감을 줄 거야.
이런 한국, 와보지 않고는 모를걸?
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring today's most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. North Korea has reported on the impeachment vote of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol at the National Assembly this past Saturday. The motion, passed after Yoon's controversial and short-lived imposition of martial law on December 3rd, suspends his duties until South Korea's constitutional court decides whether to reinstate him or remove him from office. The Korean Central News Agency reported on the news in detail, explaining how Yoon's martial law decree, which was meant to address political unrest, sparked widespread criticism and led to charges of insurrection against him. So what's behind the regime's very up-to-date and detailed report of the latest incidents in South Korea to its people, and how could the regime take advantage, or could the regime take advantage of this situation for further provocations? For answers to this, we invite Evans Revere, former acting Assistant Secretary of State and non-resident senior fellow in the Foreign Policy Program at Brookings. Welcome, Mr. Revere.
Great to be back with you.
And also joining us is Brian Myers, Professor of International Studies at Dongseo University. Great to have you, Professor.
Good to be here.
So let's start with Professor Myers. North Korea reported on the news of the passage of the impeachment motion against President Yoon. And unlike the impeachment of former President Park Geun-hye, where there was an analysis and commentary, North Korea only emphasized the political confusion. What might be the reason for this?
Well, Kim Jong-un has spent much of this year trying to convey the message to the outside world that he has given up on South Korea as a potential partner, that he trusts nobody on the political spectrum here. He has no more interest in peaceful unification. Basically, he regards South Korea as a foreign country, and he's blown up highways and railways which have been constructed to connect the two Koreas. Now, I regard this as a propaganda tactic aimed at Washington, but of course, Kim wants it taken seriously. And this makes it hard for North Korea to show as much interest in this South Korean crisis as it showed 8 years ago during the candlelight demonstrations. I think a certain emotional distance has to be made apparent this time. But I don't think we should make the mistake of assuming that propaganda put out by the KCNA is the same as the kind which average people are getting in farms and factories. I think they may well be getting a more old school kind of coverage. They may be being urged to feel solidarity with the opposition.
Right, and there are concerns that North Korea might provoke tensions by taking advantage of South Korea's political instability, but the prevailing opinion is that North Korea is unlikely to provoke recklessly. Mr. Revere, what's your outlook on this?
Well, as far as the overall North Korean treatment of this and its approach regarding provocations, et cetera, there's an old saying in politics and diplomacy that when your adversary is digging himself into a hole, don't interfere. And I think that's the sort of mindset that's guiding North Korean thinking right now. South Korea has done some damage to its international stature by the recent attempt to impose martial law. It has undermined its ties with the United States, Japan, and other democracies. And it has raised some suspicions in the international community about the ultimate stability of South Korea's democracy. Now, the South Korean government is working hard to remove concerns and suspicions and restore confidence, and that's a good thing, and I think it'll work in the end. But meanwhile, I think North Korea is probably very content with where things stand at this particular moment, that South Korea has gotten some pretty bad press. I would agree with the overall view that North Korea is probably unlikely to engage in any sort of a major provocation right now. They have a lot going on, and particularly in their effort to support the Russians fighting against Ukraine. But there may be some temptation to do something of a lower order, particularly in light of the revelations that are coming out that South Korea's military may have conducted some provocations of its own in an attempt to draw the North Koreans into some sort of a response that the South Koreans could then use to justify the imposition of martial law. Just one final point, and that is the thing that is worrisome to me right now is the fact that so many senior members of South Korea's military, including its defense minister and other key commanders, have been removed or resigned or are under arrest. This has got to have some sort of an impact on command and control in the South Korean military. It's also going to have some sort of an impact on the smoothness of U.S. ROK military-to-military communications. That problem is being addressed right now between Washington and Seoul, and I think it'll come out okay in the end. But in the meantime, we need to make sure that North Korea does not see that as an opportunity to engage in mischief.
Right, and yeah, so it's going to be important for the political turmoil to be settled down as soon as possible. Now, speaking of Washington, Donald Trump, U.S. President-elect, appointed his foreign policy advisor, former German Ambassador Richard Grenell, as special envoy for North Korean affairs. What kind of a person is he? And can this be interpreted as Trump's intent to directly manage U.S.-North Korea dialogue by appointing someone from his inner circle? Mr. Revere?
There's nothing that Donald Trump values more than loyalty and fealty. I think we've seen that over the years, and we see that in the way he's made his appointments and the way he handles his subordinates. Ambassador Grenell has shown himself to be a very dedicated loyalist to Donald Trump and Donald Trump's movement. And Donald Trump's presidency, when it begins, including his management of North Korea and other major policy issues, is going to be a very top-down, leader-centric administration, leader-centric process. And Donald Trump will not be steered by lower-level subordinates, but by having someone like Ambassador Grenell on his team and handling key portfolios, including, as it appears obvious, North Korea. I think Donald Trump is going to be able to be assured that he has somebody in place who will follow his instructions, follow the president's instructions and guidance, and will do so to the letter. And I think that's the major reason that that Grenell is in the position to which he has been appointed.
Right. Could you also tell us a little bit about this person's understanding of the situation in the Korean Peninsula, or his background on this?
He's a very capable diplomat. He's got a lot of experience. He worked hard on security and military issues in Europe. I wouldn't describe him as a Korea expert or a Korea hand, but he's certainly a foreign policy expert and knows a lot about this portfolio. But going back to the point I made earlier, maybe the thing that he knows the best is how to serve and be loyal to and inspire confidence in Donald Trump, who ultimately is going to be the North Korea desk officer in the next administration.
All right. Now, in a latest interview with The Times, Trump said that North Korea's involvement has made ending the Ukraine war more complicated, but he also expressed confidence in resolving the issue by, highlighting his personal relationship with Kim Jong-un. Professor Myers, should we expect that the likelihood of U.S.-North Korea talks, which were thought to be sidelined in Trump's second term, has increased?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure what he meant by that statement, though, because the presence of North Korean soldiers doesn't make it any more or less difficult to negotiate an end to that conflict. If it does come to peace talks, I think neither Zelensky nor Putin is going to give the North Korean soldiers much thought, and Kim Jong-un would have to accept the outcome. I think it's more accurate to say that the Ukraine war has made a nuclear deal with North Korea more difficult, because I don't see how Trump and Kim can begin negotiating in earnest so long as North Korea is fighting with Russia against Ukraine. Nor, I think, would Trump get much praise from the American public if he were to try to reach a deal with Kim Jong-un before reaching a deal to end the war in Ukraine. You know, more Americans are worried about the Ukraine war going nuclear than are worried about Kim's ICBMs. Despite the efforts of the American media to somehow present the threat of North Korean nuclear war as being greater than the threat of a Russian nuclear strike. So I think that Trump's outreach to Kim may well have to wait until the Ukraine war ends.
Mm-hmm. Now, as the likelihood of U.S.-North Korea talks increases, South Korea's role and response seem very necessary, but there are concerns that it will be difficult to respond actively under the acting President Han Duck-soo. And given concerns of South Korea being sidelined, what kind of strategies should the government be able to explore, Mr. Revere?
Well, I think it's important to keep in mind that Donald Trump's approach on North Korea is not going to be driven by the views or sensitivities of South Korea. I hate to put it that bluntly, but I think experience has shown us how Donald Trump likes to operate. I have tremendous respect for Han Duck-soo, the acting president. He's one of the most capable, intelligent, and dedicated officials I've ever met in my career. And I have no doubt that acting President Han is going to do everything to ensure that South Korea's views and its positions are conveyed at all levels to the new administration in Washington, D.C. But frankly, South Korea's challenge in ensuring that its views are listened to and respected is not a matter of who is sitting in the Yongsan presidential office. It's a matter of who is going to be sitting in the Oval Office at the White House. That's going to be the major challenge for South Korea, not just on North Korea policy issues, but other issues as well. And that needs to be kept firmly in mind going forward.
So it'll depend on how Trump would move with his policies on the Korean Peninsula. Now, meanwhile, the U.S. government officially confirmed that North Korean troops deployed to Russia were sent to the front lines, where dozens were reported killed or injured. Professor Myers, do you think the military ties between Russia and North Korea will strengthen even further?
Yeah, I do think so, because military cooperation just has a habit of strengthening over time anyway, but especially when a war is being fought. And the North Koreans are said to be getting billions of dollars worth of aid in the form of cash, oil, and other supplies in return for its support. So they're likely to become quite dependent on this military alliance if they're not already. I think even if there were to be some sudden diplomatic breakthrough in the first weeks of Trump's term, which brought an end to the Ukraine conflict, I would expect the Russia-North Korea alliance to continue strengthening anyway.
Mm-hmm. And North Korea is known to have already sent over 10,000 troops to Russia. Professor Myers, what is the likelihood of additional troop deployments, and what kind of scale and timing might we expect?
Well, I think Kim Jong-un is probably pretty unhappy with the way his troops' debut on the world stage has gone. For years we got heroic footage of his special forces training in extreme conditions, looking very muscular and formidable and breaking cinder blocks with their bare hands. But for the past few days, we've seen footage of North Korean corpses, of unprepared and frightened soldiers being followed around a snowy plain by Ukrainian drones. And even more recently, we've seen North Koreans limping in a Russian hospital. I think Kim wanted his troops to get battle experience, and they're certainly getting that, but there's nothing to be gained from having them wiped out or humiliated in full view of cameras. And he must now be worried that those images are going to make their way back to North Korea. On the other hand, I think his soldiers may well have performed better than the Ukrainian and American news media would have us believe. The Russian assault is by no means going badly. It's intensifying. So I think we just need to wait a few more days before we start making predictions about whether and how many additional troops Kim Jong-un is likely to send.
Right. And the U.S. government has previously sanctioned high-ranking North Korean officials involved in military support to Russia and ballistic missile development. Now, additionally, the South Korean government imposed independent sanctions on North Korean generals and institutions involved in military cooperation with Russia. Mr. Revere, how effective do you think are these sanctions?
There's always been a lot of misunderstanding about the purpose and effect of bilateral and multilateral sanctions on North Korea. The sanctions that have been put in place over the years have been put forward in order to raise the cost to North Korea of the actions that it's taking to violate its obligations to the UN Security Council, and the pressure that's been put on North Korea through those sanctions over the years has had some effect. It's actually one of the reasons why North Korea has moved so closely to Russia and continues to get considerable support from the Chinese, because international economic sanctions are having an effect on the DPRK. But these sanctions are not going to convince or compel North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons, and that's not actually what they were intended to do. They were intended to raise the costs to North Korea. And so I think going forward, to the extent that the United States and its partners and allies around the world continue to implement these sanctions, it will continue to require North Korea to pay a considerable cost. But if the goal is actually to convince or compel North Korea to make a dramatic change in policy, the sorts of sanctions that we've been looking at are not going to do the job, quite frankly. And there have been a lot of holes in the sanctions regime. A lot more could have been done. The word maximum pressure was bandied about a number of years back. We've never reached actual maximum pressure in terms of the maximum amount of things that we could do to North Korea. There are many, many more things that could be done to cause tremendous pain to the North Korean regime, both in its economy, its financial stability, its banking system, et cetera. So going forward, if the idea is to just continue to keep the heat on North Korea, these sorts of sanctions, if they're properly implemented, can do that. But if the United States and its partners decide that we want to ramp up the temperature on North Korea and really convince them to move in a different direction, we would have to adopt a very, very different and much tougher approach in dealing with the DPRK via sanctions.
Right. So these sanctions that we're having, they are effective, but they have limited power, and we can escalate them, but we're not doing it until now. Now, meanwhile, ties between North Korea and Russia seem to be getting closer and closer. Now, on the 16th, regular passenger train services between Russia and North Korea resumed for the first time in 4 years after the COVID-19 pandemic. Professor Myers, what's the background behind the resumption, and what could this symbolize?
Well, I think it's important to note that Russia has resumed train services to China at about the same time. So I think this is not so much a story about Russia's deepening ties to North Korea as a story of the whole region pretty much returning to normal after the disruptions of the coronavirus pandemic 4 years ago. And in any case, this train makes very short 2-mile trips back and forth across the narrow North Korean border with Russia, and they're not going to be running every day, nor I think is that train going to be bringing in a lot of tourists or traders. I would expect most of those people either to go by ship or to go into North Korea via China. This crossing where the train is going to start going back and forth is by no means as busy as the crossing between Dandong in China and Sinŭiju in North Korea. But, it's significant in the context, not least of sanctions, because we can't be sure what's going back and forth on those trains. And I also believe that the northeast of the country, which, as is widely known, is really the most impoverished part, is going to welcome whatever traders and tourists it can get.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about Mr. Revere? With the resumption, what kind of transactions should the international community be worried about?
Well, I would agree with my colleague that the limited capacity of those rail lines and other means of transportation in that part of North Korea are going to be a practical bar to any substantial use of that route for anything that would make me nervous. The thing that continues to make me nervous is not so much what might be going from North Korea into Russia and onward, but what may be coming from Russia into North Korea in terms of what is it exactly that the DPRK is getting in terms of technology, in terms of assistance, in terms of new military capabilities, new satellite launch capabilities, new fuel capabilities, new guidance technologies, shielding for its warheads on its MIRV ICBMs. Those are the things that make me nervous. And so going forward, I think we need to keep a careful eye on the quid pro quo relationship that's been established between Moscow and Pyongyang, particularly what Pyongyang may be able to provide the DPRK in terms of military and technology that could affect the military balance on the Korean Peninsula and perhaps ultimately contribute to North Korea's threat to the U.S. homeland.
So it's more likely objects and things rather than concerns about people or North Korean troops being sent to Ukraine or something?
There are plenty of other ways for the North Koreans to get troops to the battlefront rather than using a small rail line that goes across the border into this obscure corner of Russia.
All right. Thank you so much for your insights. We'll have to leave our discussion right here. Professor Myers and Mr. Revere, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Now, that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.
진짱국에선 어떻게 먹는지 알려줄까?
K-바비큐? 신김치랑 먹어야지.
치킨? 치맥 페스티벌은 처음이지?
김치? 종류만큼 먹는 법도 가지각색.
김밥? 시장에선, 산에선, 바다에선 이렇게.
국밥? 취향 따라